We got a great speaker coming up, an educator, a mom. She's born in Montrose, Colorado. Lisa Romero is currently a teacher in Montrose as well. She's been teaching for 19 years. God bless her. Anybody who's teaching that long deserves all the grace from God. So let her have it. Come on.
Thank you.
I shortened it so much.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Yes, yes. Hi. So, because I'm a teacher, I like to do definitions to begin with, and I want to start with the actual definition of healing. There's two definitions of healing. One of them is a noun, and the noun says the process of becoming sound or healthy again. And then there's an adjective. It says that's tending to heal or be therapeutic. So for me, my healing came from being very therapeutic and trying to find within me to heal myself of traumatic events that happened in my life. So for healing for me is different than most. My healing came from my heart needing to heal from the events that happened, which occurred during my childhood. As a child, at 5 years of age, my mom decided that she could not take care of us anymore. And so she accused my brother of stealing money. And at that point in time, she called my dad and said, "You have to come get him." And my dad said, "Nope, that's not happening. If I come get him, I'm gonna come get both of them." And so I was living in California at the time with my mom. Very, very bad situation. We didn't have food. We didn't have, and quite honestly, to have milk in my cereal, we had to have chocolate milk, which was crazy. I sustained physical abuse, sexual abuse, at the hands of a man that I don't remember a lot of it, but I do remember the physical abuse. I thought at the time that was going to be a healing thing for me to leave and go with my dad, but in the end it really wasn't the best situation at all. When I was excited to leave in relief of all the stuff that was happening, but at the same time I wanted my mom. And so as time went on, mom didn't come to court hearings. I began to question and ask why she wasn't there. No phone calls. As a young girl changing, you always needed a mom in the picture, and she wasn't there, and there was dad. And dad wasn't the best. Dad was an alcoholic. So we had to deal with jail time and him doing whatever he did and whatever the case may be. So as we went on, I wasn't sure how I was feeling about all of it, but as the years went on, I know that the pain wasn't going away. It still continued to be there throughout my life. When she finally decided to come back into town at a time in my life when I was probably, I was a child, I was probably 9 or 10, I found out I had a half-sibling who was living with her. And I'm like, why? Why can't I live with my mom? And so didn't know about him, but then there was the stepdad, and I found out later that that was the same man who had abused me as a child. So anger, frustration, sadness, confusion. So as the years went on, there was an angel in my life who was my grandmother. My grandmother was a blessing in my life. She took care of me, she raised me, she made me the person I am today. But still through it all, there was that aching and that agging to see my mom. And as I was going through high school, I began to drink. I would say I wasn't an alcoholic because I only drink on the weekends, and I only drink, I don't even know how I got home at times. They didn't care, I didn't care. And then I decided that things needed to change, and in order to change, I needed to go to college. And during that time in my life, I was called stupid, I was called dumb, I was told I was never going to become anything in my life. And so I didn't want to fit that grain of salt that everybody kept pushing me in, because I came from a bad home life. And at school, they would tell me the same thing: you're poor, you're not wanted, you're not going to become anything. And so I didn't want to be that statistic. So I changed my life. I made the choice to make a change. And so as I was growing up, I was determined to go to college. I went to college my first year, and I went to get away from the alcohol. And I went to a private college. So I got to the private college, and what did I do? I drank. I drank and I drank and I drank, and it was a Christian college, which shouldn't happen. So in order for that to happen, they bussed us on buses to an Air Force base, and we partied it up. And in that time, I learned that alcohol was not what I wanted to do. And so I left that college, and then I went to college here in Grand Junction, and I finished my degree. And I ended up with an associate's in early childhood and a bachelor's in education and a bachelor's of sociology, concentration in anthropology. But that didn't fix things. It didn't fix it. I became the person I didn't want to become, that person that was in social services, that they showed up at your house every day and said, hey, we want to check your house out. And my dad's like, lie to them, or they're going to put you in a foster home. I still had that aching, the anger. My mom tried to call, and at that point, I was done with my mother. I didn't know how to react to her. I didn't know what to do with her other than be angry. And so I continued on with the anger for most of my adult life, and got married, had 2 children, and it was at that point in time in my life that I felt like my mom needed to be there. And the only way to make that happen was to figure out how to get in contact with her. You watch those shows that they say, I don't know, the Dr. Phil show or Oprah and all those shows. I wanted to find my mom. I was dying to find my mom and didn't know where she was at. Had no clue where she was at. And one day I prayed and I said, God, if this is supposed to happen, please let it happen. And it did. Her phone number fell in my lap. And I wanted to say the most angry things to her, but that's not what happened. My healing came because I forgave the woman.
Yes.
Forgiveness, it's a big thing. And my grandmother, as I was growing up in church, she taught me that I needed to forgive, but I was like, no, not happening. These people don't know what I've gone through in my life. They don't know the hurt that I've been through, the pain that I've been through. I will not forgive that woman. So the things that were coming out of my mouth were not what I expected. God put other words in my mouth, and I said to my mom, I forgive you for all the things that you've put me through in my life. Now let's move forward. So I had to take a step back and went, what just happened? Because that's not how I want it to be. So my healing came from the forgiveness that God put on my heart to say, you need to forgive this woman, even though she's done what she's done to you. You need to forgive your father for the things that he has done to you. And my dad was a different story. Like, he was my dad, and I grew up with him, and whatever the case may be, he was my dad, and I could not forgive the man. So I started with my mom. When I talked to her that day, things changed. I invited a woman who I hadn't seen ever since I was like 7 years old into my home. I paid for a plane ticket for that woman and her husband to come to my home and get to know me and my children. Talk about crazy. I did it. But that's where the healing came from. A healing that I never knew needed to happen until the moment it happened. And so as the years have gone on, my mom now lives in Montrose with me. Her husband passed away. And the healing's still happening. She won't ever be that mom, that connecting mom that I needed, but she's that mom that I was like, I need to have a mom. And so I continue to take care of her now, even though I never got the care that I felt like I deserved, but I can care for her. I can help her out. I can do the things that she needs to do. And so she lives there now. We have a relationship. She has a relationship with my children, her grandchildren. And she helps me get through some of the things that I have to go through as well. And then there's my dad, who I struggled with. Women seem to be more important to him in life. There were times that he was at the bar all the time. And I almost died one night because I had appendicitis. My appendix burst, couldn't find him. And back in that time, when I was younger, you can't do surgery on a child unless the parent gives consent. So I almost died. They finally found him, and I got to have the surgery. But it was like one thing after another with my dad. It was the women. It was buying the women the gifts at Christmas while my brother and I sat over here and had gifts from the angel trees. But I forgave him, and I have the best relationship with my dad I've ever had in my entire life. But the best gift of all is going through all the circumstances that I'm going through now and the forgiveness that I've had to do. My dad one day, which is very crazy, he is a lottery ticket fool, got a lottery ticket and won $250,000. And he handed me the ticket and said, "This is yours."
Wow. Wow.
It happened at a time in my life that it needed to happen. I paid my bills off. I did what I needed to do. He didn't have to do that, but he felt bad for all the times. And he was thankful for the forgiveness that I had given him. And so, again, forgiveness, it healed me from the inside out. People don't want to forgive, but I'm telling you, it's the hardest thing you have to do, but it's the best thing that can happen for you. I'm going through divorce currently, and God woke me up in the middle of the night a few nights ago, and I thought this was ironic. I was coming to do a speech about forgiveness, and God said, "You have to forgive the man that you're divorcing. You have to forgive him." So I in the middle of the night, I listed all the things. God, help me, forgive him for this, forgive him for this. And so my heart's healing again. And so for me personally, I think the best thing for my healing is to continue my pursuit in forgiveness. I wrote some verses down here that in Ephesians 4:32, it says, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God forgave you." And forgive others who trespass you, as your Father in heaven forgave you. But if you do not forgive them, he's not going to forgive you. So healing is a whole different meaning for me because of the forgiveness that I gave to people in my life who didn't deserve it, who really truly did not deserve it for the way that I was treated throughout life. I told you just bits and pieces of how I grew up. It was a very traumatic life. But that forgiveness, above all, heals from the inside out. And so for me personally, my life is so much better forgiving those people. So that's my healing.